Anyway, okay, so welcome to the workshop. It's on opening to your intuition. So I'm Nicole and I work as an intuitive healer, and I mentor people on how to work with their intuition, amongst other things, but we can talk about me later. Let's get on with the presentation. So what we're going to do in the session is we're going to talk about how we can open to our intuition and the benefits of opening to into our intuition, and have the opportunity to ask questions at the end, like I said, and we'll be sharing our stories and our experiences. Okay, so this is what we're going to be exploring today. What is intuitive intelligence, and how just the magic of the universe can open to you when you start to listen to your intuition. I put intuitive voice here, but our intuition can come through in many ways. And a focus for me personally, in terms of where I started with all of this, was how to live in kind of intuitive flow. Let me make you small so you won't get recorded. There we go. So we're going to talk about what the biggest blocks are to confidently connect to your intuition, what your intuition may feel like to you, and then the benefits of developing your intuition. So this might be as a highly sensitive person, as someone that I call a light bearer, someone with a soul mission, and as a healer, as examples. Okay, so I love this quote. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. And we have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So that, I remember when I read that, it really resonated to me, a truth that I kind of felt as a child. So what is intuitive intelligence? So I looked up in the Oxford Dictionary, what is intuition, because I thought this was a good foundation. It's the ability to understand something instinctively without the need for conscious reasoning, which kind of goes against our main currency within society. So intuitive intelligence is the voice of a higher aspect of consciousness. So these are kind of this is my attempt to sit down and explain what I experience intuitive intelligence as. And it definitely feels separate to the sense of, I guess, the egoic self or the rational and conscious mind. But I would say it goes beyond the subconscious mind. It's a higher aspect of consciousness, which could also be known as kind of universal consciousness, and as well as this kind of aspect of higher self, I guess. So it communicates with us in different ways. One of those ways is sensing our intuition through the body. It might come to you as a sense of knowing. It might come through sudden hunches, thoughts, insights in dreams, signs that we see that suddenly resonate and we know that it's a message. Our intuitive intelligence has our highest good in mind, so it's always directing us into growth, into expanded states, into higher states of love. It has access to all information beyond time and space. So this sort of transcendental perspective, which I work within my work, I'm just to give you an example. It's like we have our memories from this lifetime and we might think, oh, yes, I'm doing this because this happened when I was a child. But on a soul level, we have an ancestry of our own soul, which is ourself, life after life after life, and all the learning, or the trauma and the difficulties and the connections that we have. When we zoom right out and look at ourselves from that perspective, it's like we're not just, I'm not just Nicole, I'm also 100 of these different people, or so on, with all these different perspectives that I've had. So anyway, to give you an example of transcendental perspective. So our intuitive intelligence is not restricted by this smaller egoic self. So this, identity as me, Nicole, my likes, my dislikes, and my history. And our intuitive intelligence, I'm just changing it from voice, it's an aspect of our higher self, can also speak through this intuition. And it's an aspect of spiritual guidance and source energy, or the universe, however you would like to term that. So why even bother to connect to your intuition? Why is it important? So I get the tingles when I think about this. Your intuition is just so invaluable. For me, it's been completely life-changing. So it really does help us, like I said, to expand into our greatest potential. So going beyond is where, I started off exploring Buddhism, and it was this idea of, you know, what is self, who am I? And for me, working with my intuition really started to break down those barriers and expand my consciousness. So that's one way it can help us. It can lead us to, yeah, deep soulful satisfaction through expressing our natural innate gifts, which we may have a sense of, but we can also deepen and allow more to come through us. And if we are a light bearer with a soul mission, so this is, you know, we've come in with an agreement that we've got a project that we're going to deliver, then it can really, again, feel incredibly satisfying because we need our intuition to discover that, to realize what that is, to have our full sense of self-expression. Our intuition will guide us to our mentors or teachings, passions, knowledge, you know, schools, trainings that are important to us at particular times. And it's great when it comes to interacting and connecting with others as well. So being able to read people, being able to read situations, knowing when we need to put a barrier, a boundary around ourselves or a situation, back off of someone or move towards, etc. And it's great for our day-to-day choices as well. So it's not just those, you know, you've got your big life-changing choices, career, partners, where do I live, etc. But it's also, I use it for diary planning and, you know, knowing when if I should meet up with a certain person or not, or where to go on holiday, you know, just decision making, what to eat, what not to eat. So it's really about feeling fulfilled and rewarded in all these different aspects of our lives, so personally, financially, and within our relationships, so on. So I love the phrase, we're a spiritual being having a human experience, because I think we get stuck in the human because it's so, you know, obviously we're not just floating entities, floating souls. We have bodies that we need to feed and resource. So why is your intuition invaluable? Like, continuing this. So something that was wonderful for me in opening up to my intuition and the subtle realms was I started to experience the unseen world and feeling guides around me, or receiving healing, seeing fairies in the woods, things like that. It's like you never know what's going to open up to you when you start to open up to your intuitive abilities. We were able to really channel creative ideas, or it might be books or courses, or various things can start to flow through us when we are literally, instead of damming ourselves, in terms of like, we open up the river, we open up the gates, and our intuitive self can allow information to flow through us. That's one of the things that can happen. And that can come through with, you know, when I think about it, talking to friends and giving ideas or advice, or just knowing what to say. That's one way it can happen. Or whether it is work about, you know, what next project to produce, or who we could work with, or who to approach about a certain issue or idea or problem. So our intuition can really help us with our healing process. For me, more recently, it was just about knowing, okay, how do I go to the next level? And right now I want to work karmically with some of my stuff rather than needing to work on this life. I need to find the right person to work with, and really just let my intuition lead who that was. So that kind of tracking, it's really helpful in that way. Yeah, and so just really having quantum leaps as well with shifts in our consciousness. So yeah, new paths, new opportunities, living life with a spiritual connection. So yeah, really feeling like you're not on your own, and you're part of the universe, you're part of the collective, you're part of a bigger community, and that feels incredible, really enriching. And I think our intuitive senses can lead us to that, because we can feel into those subtle realms, and then living in intuitive flow as well, so we feel more trusted, more able to be guided, more receptive. So we pause when we need to do the work where we're at, and then wait for the next piece of information to come in before we move on. So the self expands through acts of forgetfulness. So how do we live in intuitive flow? What does that mean? So living intuitively and being in intuitive flow, I mean, you can't do it. Like my aim was to do this 100% of the time, but life gets in the way. But really for me, it means about letting intuition lead, having faith in that, going to your intuition first and foremost when it comes to decision making. So there was a point where I was in a relationship and my head was like, I want to make it work. My heart was like, I love them. And my intuition was like, it's over. And at that point, I just thought, right, I need to go to the head honcho, which for me is my intuitive awareness, first and foremost, because this seems to have the deciding vote. So I don't know why I'm ignoring it. So really, it's going to the part of us that already knows the answer, however many years down the line, or can see the potentials and can navigate the best route forwards. So to do that, we have to get out of our own way. We have to stop thinking with our head, stop thinking through our fears, and really open up to, I was about to say more risk, but it's like, yeah, the unconventional route to trust something that we can't see, that we can't necessarily plan out or argue to someone why we're doing it, but just, the number of times I've said, I just know, or I just have this really good feeling, and trusted in that, and taken the first step and allowed the path to unfold in front of me. That was me getting out of my own way. So it's really letting go, being less resistant, contractive, fearful, doubting, and when I'm getting in my own way, I'm continually working on myself. So when I feel that I've got, say, when it came to delivering and creating this intuitive training I've got coming up, for example, I could feel, fear, resistance, and around visibility or groups, whatever it was coming up. And then I started doing the work. So all the time I'm trying to get out of my own way when I'm working with those fears. Living in intuitive flow also means entering deeper states of mind more and more naturally, more frequently. So going into alpha states instead of staying in beta states, which is the conscious mind. And it can, when you talk about going into trance states or self-hypnosis, it's like, oh, that's really particular. But actually, we do it very naturally, when we go into a lift and we kind of zone out and suddenly we're on the bottom floor and we think, oh my God, how did I get there? So we naturally enter these states without thinking about it, and it's just doing it more consciously can help us to listen to intuitive messages. Yeah, intention is powerful. Just deciding I'm leading with my intuition, I want to live in intuitive flow, and letting go and allowing. We have to make the choice, like our intention is incredibly powerful with what we draw into our lives. So, and doing it imperfectly, like you're going to have clunky days, you're going to feel uncertain, you're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. Like that's all normal. Living in intuitive flow isn't. I kind of had this image of, probably more a religious figure really, that's like, oh yes, I just know and I just trust, and all will come and all will be well. And actually the reality is they had to fight with doubt just as much as any of us do, but it's kind of moving beyond that, and that's the test, I think. The faith of holding on to a feeling without actually consciously knowing. Yes, what do I mean here? Connecting to a higher self and guides. Yeah, just I think when we're in the flow, we start to open up to these higher realms within ourselves and outside of ourselves. It becomes easier and more fluid. So Caroline Mice, I think is how you say her name. We often hesitate to follow our intuition out of fear. Most usually we are afraid of the changes in our own life that our actions will bring. Intuitive guidance, however, is all about change. We fear our intuitions because we fear the transformational power within our revelations. I know that's 100% true for younger me. There are things that I just didn't want to acknowledge or admit. So what are the biggest blocks to connecting with your intuition? So yeah, what stops us? Why aren't we all living intuitively right now? So It's because we're living from the conscious mind and we have a very fixed view around how this should happen or when it should happen. Like, who I should be with, who my ideal partner is, at what age I should be getting married, or where I should be living, or at what point I should be at within my career. It's like we have to let go of all of that in varying degrees to actually move towards an authentic self and what actually needs to come through us. So again, in that sense, it's kind of being less conventional of all the shoulds and actually living truly. Emotional trauma, that's a big one. If you're dealing with trauma, I know this for myself. I remember a friend saying to me, she's like, Nicole, if you can see this stuff and feel it, I just don't understand why you don't do it. And I said, well, because I'm completely overwhelmed with all the stuff that's being triggered inside of me. Like, I can't deal with any more information. And it makes it very hard to know what's coming through intuitively. If, say you meet a person and they trigger a bunch of stuff in you, you can't get a clean read on if they are actually the problem or if it's actually your own stuff. So this is where it's really important to clear as much internally, release and let go as much of your own baggage so you can really get a clean read on the information that's coming through. So yeah, being logical and rational. We live in a very rationalist society. We don't live in a mythic context in terms of how we view things. And we've had witch trials not all that long ago, and living woo-woo, like the fear of being woo-woo can be, I know it's a massive block for me. So yeah, that can dampen down our intuitive hits. And a lack of confidence and trust in your intuition. My goodness, do I see this in my clients all the time? I'll often say, oh, I'm picking this up or I'm reading this. And they're like, yeah, I thought that, but I just didn't, I just ignored it. So the information is coming through, but we're not having enough confidence in what we're picking up. So, I know in the early part of my journey, I really just decided, okay, instead of dismissing it, instead of just thinking I'm being weird or strange or talking myself out of it, I leaned into it and started to believe in it and trust in it, and it grew and the muscle got stronger and the information came in more clearly, etc. So a lack of training and practice, that's also a big one. If we don't, is a muscle, it's kind of a relationship in terms of the information, allowing the information to come in, but it's also a muscle in terms of the way that we the tools that we use internally in terms of how we hear it. We've got to exercise it to start to get practice in to listen to our intuition. We're just not listening. That's another one. We can just be completely ignoring it. So more fears blocking your intuition. Fear of change. It requires a lot of courage to take these leaps. It will really bring us up against ourselves at times and our own fears. You don't have all the answers. That is a big one. It's like we think we've got to have some sort of 5-year plan with all the bits of intuitive information that comes through, and that is just never going to happen. You're going to get a piece of the puzzle, and then you're going to have to take the step with the piece that you have, and then allow that to unfold, and then you'll get the next piece, and you just keep going. Even if you get a bigger vision, you're not going to know what all the stepping stones are to get there, and that's just the way it works. So because often it involves a level of transformation. You've got to change as you're going along to get to that final point. But if you knew all the information, you wouldn't change, so it wouldn't work. Fear of being different and unconventional. It's scary if we're being told leave this job and start a new career. Like, we probably won't want to. It might not be convenient for many reasons. We don't want to rock the boat and make changes. That can be in relationships. There's certain relationships that we know that we need to distance ourselves or even end it. But that was a big one for me, like listening to my intuition. It was like, actually, I knew there was some major relationships that I just needed to cut out and end, but I wasn't really ready to admit that. We don't want to listen because it means addressing our wounds or problematic relationships, as I just mentioned. We can feel helpless in terms of the responsibilities we already have, or a bit overwhelmed. So yeah, our intuition pushes out of our comfort zone, stretch our boundaries, and ask us to live an inconvenient life. So learning to trust your instincts, using your intuitive sense of what's best for you is paramount for any lasting success. I've trusted the still, small voice of my intuition my entire life, and the only time I've made mistakes is when I didn't listen. Oprah Winfrey. So, she's a highly successful businesswoman who's been listening to her intuition. There's many others. So how you develop your intuition? Practice, practice, practice. Just making the choice, like setting the intention that you're going to start to listen. However it comes through for you, you're going to start to listen and take heed and take action. So the information can come, and if we do nothing, then it's irrelevant. For me, it was paramount to let my intuition lead. And so when it came to decision making on every level, I'd be like, what does my intuition say? What does my intuition say? And then I allow the other parts of me to come on and get on board and make the action happen, We really have to quieten down to be able to listen in the first place. So if our heads are really noisy or our bodies are really noisy with information, we're not going to find it easy to listen. I know that my body was a terrifying place to be before. And so connecting in was just like, it was like a no-go zone. So it made it very hard to listen. So dialing down the internal noise, doing that inner work, knowing your tendencies and your patterns. So this is a big one. Often people are like, okay, well, I'm getting this feeling, but I don't know if it's a fear or if it's no. So that's when you've got to know, you've got to have good enough self-awareness of where your difficult areas are. Am I saying no because I'm terrified of public speaking, or am I saying no because I just shouldn't do this event? That's two different things. And we have to be able to discern between those two things. So we need to be very self-aware. Got to be willing to be authentic and real to be self-aware. So if your intuition is saying no, you've just got to say no and have the uncomfortable conversation and not go to that wedding or whatever it is. And that means you being real instead of pleasing other people. Reframing failures as learning experiences, that was really important to me. There's times when I remember my friend saying to me, oh, wow, that was really embarrassing. Do you no longer trust your intuition, when I was like waiting for some man to come back? I said, no, that was 100% a massive learning experience. What that taught me was what it feels like to let fear override my intuitive sense. But sometimes we need to make those mistakes to know the difference. Yeah. So yeah, training and supportive allies, having community around you is just so wonderful to be able to talk to people who are like-minded. That's been very powerful for me. So letting your intuition be your guide. So your way of listening to your intuition. So you'll hear it as, clairaudience, clairsentience, but I kind of my dyslexic brain doesn't like it, and I think it makes it sound too fancy. So I'm just going to call it feeling, knowing, seeing, hearing, and smelling. And you can, I think people kind of say, oh, I'm clairaudient, which means I hear, but actually you can be all of them. You usually have just with your personality and your preferences, you can usually be weighted in one area. For me, I was very visionary, but I used to say, oh, I just can't hear anything. And then one day I realized, I really need to be able to hear from my work. It's a very helpful tool. And I thought, what if I just stop saying I can't hear and just say I can? And within a few sessions, I could, I'd just be chatted at the whole time. So don't block yourself by thinking, oh, I can't do that. Just be open to enhancing those different skills is what I would say. Intuitive gifts. So your way of listening to your intuition. So that said, you will have your strengths. So for someone, it might be a hunch. It's just like this kind of, it's not always in the gut, but a hunch just might be, I've just got a feeling I need to pick up the phone and call that old teacher and talk to them about this thing. Or I've just got a feeling that this is something that I should explore in my work because it might take off. So I'll give you an example of a hunch. So I started off working with highly sensitive people, and I was getting a lot of response around boundaries. People, it really resonated with people. But every time logically I thought, right, well, this is the thing I should do a course on or a workshop on or something. And every time I asked my intuition, it was a hard no every time. And I just thought, this doesn't make any sense. And in the end, I just gave up on it. I thought, well, something else is coming. And then it did, you know. So that part of me knew better, even though the logic was telling me this would be the route to go down. It was like, actually, it's just not, that's not going to work for me, or that's not the gifts that I'm meant to the information I'm meant to give people. Okay, intuitive hits or downloads. So like sometimes you can literally just have like bang ideas coming in and hitting you. It's like I put here, yeah, like the example before. For me, it's been like, go in that shop. Or one of the examples was I was walking around Crone, which is on the coast, and just having a day to myself. And I literally heard a voice in my head go get a reading. And I thought, I don't need a reading. I'm fine. Like, I'm not got any questions. And then a few minutes later, it's like, go get a reading. I thought, okay. So, and I did, and it was really useful. And I went around the corner and there was one slot left on a Saturday. I thought it wasn't going to be anything. So sometimes we can just get this hit, or for me, it's like, go to this store and going into this charity shop, and the book that I've been looking for is sitting there, you know. So, or you might, you know, it might be a friend who you just suddenly know, we're going to be, you meet someone you like, we're going to be great friends, or a mentor, and you're like, I don't know what you're teaching, but I need to be around you. That was one of my teachers. I was like, yeah, I just need to learn. I need to be around this person and your aura, because whatever is going on, I want more of it. That was my teacher, Dinah, who taught me shiatsu. So it can really save you big problems. My inner growl, I'm so grateful for her. That's my version. It can be just a knowing about people where it's like, yeah, for me, I'll meet a certain person and I won't think anything. I'll just hear it. And that's me picking up on something about them that feels, you know, untrustworthy or whatever. And it saved me a lot of money when it comes to investing in certain people or projects when it comes to work, for example. Ways of hearing your intuition. So supportive messages from guides. So sometimes it might be we're just drawn to listen to a certain podcast, and then we're drawn to a certain podcast episode, and lo and behold, it just really resonates with where we're at. Or if you ever do writing, you might channel some answers that way. That was one of the early days I started playing with this when I was a kid. Or oracle cards, that's a classic. We just pull out a card and bang, there's a kind of, it really resonates and just speaks to us in terms of the day we're having or the direction we're taking. Some of us are more visionary, so we might get information in dreams. We can have guides coming to us in dreams, or in meditations, you might just suddenly spontaneously go into a journey. Or doing drum journeys is very helpful with that. Symbols, you know, whether it's angel numbers or feathers, whatever your messages are, I think we can all have different messages that resonate with us, and that might carry a message for us in that moment. Yeah, channel writing and art. So switching off the mind and just allowing. So you must train your intuition. You must trust the small voice inside you, which tells you exactly what to say and what to decide. Ingrid Bergman. So highly sensitive people. So this is the last part. I'm just talking about how it might assist different kinds of people. So if you're highly sensitive, this would be for you. So listening to your intuition, you know, if you're highly sensitive, you're already going to have natural intuitive abilities. I found that I just felt so overwhelmed with, you know, unprocessed trauma that it was hard to listen to it. But our intuition is fantastic at helping us learn how to both set the rhythm of our lives, but also learn how to confidently read people and situations, and then be able to set the boundaries that we need to. It helps us to live authentically and to become more confident in navigating the subtle energy that you're picking up on. So when you're in a room and you're reading an atmosphere or you know, a building or people, you can start to trust what you're picking up instead of doubting yourself all the time. Learning to work with your intuition can also help just get clarity over, you know, is this mine or is it not mine? These thoughts, these physical tensions, this emotion. It's so easy for us to absorb what is happening for others. And then that can make us feel very confused about how we feel or what we want, because we're actually getting an influx of information from other people. So it helps to listen to our intuition. We can start to filter that detail. We can also learn techniques, intuitive techniques to ground and set boundaries energetically, and then disconnect from people and do energetic cleansing as well of the emotions that we have absorbed, or cord cutting. So again, that kind of boundary setting and helping us to come back to ourselves and realize, you know, what are my thoughts, what are my feelings, because people pleasing is often something that highly sensitives can often struggle with. So souls with a mission. So this is someone that's had a contract to deliver a certain project in this lifetime before you came in. So your intuition is paramount for this, because it helps you to figure out what on earth you're doing, what the project is in the first place. Because you come in, you have a sense that there's this important thing you're meant to do, but you can't remember what it is. It's incredibly frustrating. So then you have to just start to listen to your intuitive awareness to realize what it is that you're meant to be bringing into the world. And this will come through in signs and messages, and figuring out what your purpose is and your calling. And your intuition is going to be the fundamental piece that's going to help you do this. So you've got to learn to trust it, and it will help you to manifest both your abilities, but also your ideas, direct you to the right teachers, the mentors, courses, etc. And then opening up to alpha states, you can start to live more in intuitive flows. So you're becoming a channel for a particular kind of healing or wisdom or art and so forth. And using the intuitive tools, it will help you with your decision-making process as well. So you know which direction to take, but there's more of that on my blogs and things. And for healers, coaches, and therapists, how your intuition can help you. Really, for me, it's allowing you to really dig into your own personal gifts and go deeper. So your work becomes more powerful, basically, and you're able to start to listen to the intuitive messages that are coming in, and you start to realize your own channeling abilities, however that comes about. You know, we can get very stuck in our own modalities and methodologies, and then we don't expand into what the soul knows beyond that. And that really, for me, you know, what those trainings that we do are foundational, and it's allowing our intuition can open us up to natural abilities. So examples being we may have a very strong nature connection, or we may have a very strong connection with a goddess who comes through with the work that we do, or we might be a channel for a healer that steps into us and actually does the healing. Like, they're examples of different ways of healing that I've seen in people. Or I'll pause with that one. It can help you to read your clients more effectively. So then you can, again, instead of consciously like breaking down what I should and shouldn't do, you just start to allow your intuition to lead, and that can lead to more powerful sessions. And you start to channel your own wisdom into the world, and it can help you to guide you on your business journey, figure out your niche, get the growth support, business support that you need, and again, guide you to the right mentors. Okay, so this is the last part. So what next? Start taking your intuition seriously is the main piece, takeaway, and then start training those intuitive skills. So just, you know, start to listen and take action. So we can listen, and if we ignore it and deny it, then we're not going to get anywhere. But you're building a relationship with the information that is coming through, but also your skill set. So allow yourself to evolve, allow things to unfold, and to allow yourself to change. And acknowledge your natural gifts. You know, you will have, I don't know, a connection with the stars, or a connection with nature, or a natural connection with the goddess, or whatever it might be. We all do have these beautiful natural gifts, and it's allowing those to flow through us. More trust, less doubt. You know, doubt is the biggest killer when it comes to intuition, when we just aren't able to have the confidence in what we're feeling. And then building our confidence from our successes. You know, I'm regularly looking at my day, at my week, at my year, at where I've trusted, where I've listened, and then looking at where it's got me. You know, just like looking back 12 years, 15 years down the line, it's like each time I've listened, it took me to that person, it took me to that place, it took me to that experience, and now it's brought me here. So, you know, really building trust, building your confidence by looking back at where it has gone right and where you've listened and it's been a success. So this is just, you know, if this whole topic interests you, there's loads of blogs on intuition. I've got videos, more videos coming out, so you can go mine them. And there's also more on my library where I've done other workshops on intuition. So you can go and have a look at that if you go on the mailing list, you get it. You get the library comes through. There's a free workshop. So this is 2024 as I'm recording this. I'm running some intuitive training in this November for 3 days, but there's also, it's not 3 hours, it's 2 hours. There'll be a free part of the beginning part of that will be free. So there's some more free workshops coming up, and various programs that you can find on our website, as you can see there. So we're going to